Hey, welcome back into Deep South Rust. I'll move on. In today's video, we have this 2014 Jeep Wrangler Sport. Now this customer takes extremely good care of his vehicle, but he's got the dreaded front axle seal leak. We're going to try to get this handled today. Try to get both of these seals replaced. You have to remove both front axles and the carrier, being that these seals are actually just outside of both carrier bearings. So stay with us as we get this job handled. So we're going to start by removing both the front wheels on this and both of the calipers and brake harness assemblies. These caps that they like to put over the gloves, these things always seem to kind of want to get stuck in your socket, even with the correct socket. These things get stuck and go in. I wish they would just get away from doing these cap wheel lugs. So, Chrysler, Ford, Chevy, if you're watching, please just put some regular lugs on these things. You get on the side of the road, broke down, and all these things want to round off. It's really annoying for anybody trying to change a tire on the side of the interstate. Because this is a guarantee, this is going to happen. Now that we got both the front wheels off, we're going to look see what we got to have to pull these calipers. And it's probably going to be best just to go ahead and pull the bracket assembly and all, and just hang them here somewhere that they'll be out of the way. All right, let's go. Let's get over here and get what we need to pull these loose, and they actually may be the same size. Oh, of course not. Kind of weave our way around my shop. Eventually, I've got to get back on this old 4000 Ford and get it put back together. But for now, that's for another time. All right, I'm going to pause you guys while I get these bracket assemblies taken off. All right, guys, once you have your brakes and all that off, you got three 13 millimeter 12-point bolts, headed bolts, should I say, that's coming through the back and holding your spindle, your bearing, all that on. So what you want to do is you want to take those 3 bolts out. Be careful, shoot them with some penetrating oil. These things catch a lot of debris and stuff and get built up on them. And a lot of times they do like to try to strip out on you. So just be careful and be mindful as you're pulling those out. And then you just slide your axle out. And if you look right here, this right here is a shim. You have 2 of those I'm gonna bring this up here close. You have two of these shims on this axle. Well, look, one of these stayed in there. So what I have to do is I need to fish this out. Once I get this carrier stuff out, I need to push that on out so I can put it back on the axle. That's just kind of a little reminder, just something to pay attention to. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this to the side. Just kind of set that down out of the way. Then we're gonna move to the other side and get the other side tore down. And then once we do that, we'll pull your plate off your carrier, drain it all down. Your cover will drain the fluid out of it. And then we'll pull that carrier out and I'll show you guys what you need to do there. All right, guys, we've got both the axles out now. So at that point, now it's time to focus on where the real source of the problem is. Right here under this carrier, and this carrier, we'll slip this cover off, we'll drain all this oil out of here. I'll take all bolts out but one, and I'll loosen it off, and I'll take just a flat head and kind of tap in behind this cover and just kind of crack it loose and get it draining down into my pan. I don't know if you guys have got one of these V4 drain pans, but I'm gonna try to tilt you guys down to see this. These drain pans right here, these things are really nice. You got your two larger wheels on the back, you got two wheels on the front that swivel and lock. It's got a nice grate on the top of it where you can drop all your filters and stuff to drain out, so that when you're done, you can let those drain, let them drain for a day or two, whatever, before you throw them in the garbage. I probably let them pile up a little longer than I should. It's got a nice transfer pump to transfer the fluid that's in it into a drum or maybe some 5-gallon buckets, something that you can take and dispose it with. These things are roughly probably, I think, somewhere between like 119 and 129. I think, don't quote me on that because I'm not 100%. But these are made by V4. I'm sure there's some other companies out there that probably make the same ones. But this is a really, really nice investment if you have a small garage and you don't want to drag up a bunch of old oil pans and buckets and stuff like that. You can kind of keep it cleaned up. This one's pretty dirty right now, but it's really nice. You guys are thinking about buying one. Now look, that being said, I'm not paid by V4. I'm not an affiliate. I'm simply just a guy here in the shop that uses some of their products, some of their sockets and wrenches and different stuff like that. And I've had good luck with all of it. But that's just kind of a little bit of information for you guys if y'all are thinking about drain pans and all. Just get that and just see how they work for you. All right, let's get back to this rear diff. All right, we're going to focus you guys back up a little bit. All right, so as I said before, we're going to take these 10 bolts out. These are 13 millimeter headed bolts. We're going to slip every one of them. We're going to take every one of them out, leave the top one in. We're going to crack this thing, let it drain down. I'll do this real quick so you guys can watch. I don't want to focus in on y'all on this too much. I'm trying to keep these videos a little shorter, but we'll take these out. I've been kind of loosening some of these off before I cut the camera back on rolling. But let's get all these out of here. All right, so we got all those out. We're up to this last one here. I'm just going to kind of crack it loose there. I don't want to do too much because I don't want it to come falling off. But I'm going to take my little hammer and a screwdriver and kind of go in behind this thing and just kind of tack it free. Somebody's been in here before because there's a lot of silicone on this, so this thing may be a little harder to get off than I'm thinking. Yeah, somebody went kind of crazy with the silicone, which is fine. Just makes it a little harder to change and get these things out. You don't want to beat too much. You don't want to bend it. And if you do bend it, it's okay. Lay it on a flat surface. And there we go. There we go. Now that we got that thing drained down, we'll let it sit there and pour some more. But we'll go ahead and slip this cover off. take this one last bolt out. If I can do this without dropping it. All right, and we'll lay this thing down to the side on top of this drain pan. Let it finish draining. The fluid in this thing looks really good. I don't see any signs of any metal or anything like that at this point. So that's always a real good sign when there's no metal in any of it. All right, the next thing is your carrier caps. What you want to do is, if you can't remember which side these things go on, or you accidentally mix them up or whatever, the best thing to do, honestly, is put you a stake on one of these so you can match that side up. But take them off and just lay them on each side so you know exactly where they come from. It's very important not to get those crossed up, along with the shims that's in there with it. You get the shims mixed up, that's going to throw your heel and toe side of your gears off, and you're going to get a lot of whining and a lot of irregular gear wear. So you definitely don't want to get these crossed up, because the shims are not going to be the same on each side. All right, so I'm going to get these out, and I'm going to lay them each one out to the side. I'm going to get all this cleaned up. We definitely don't want to put any of this back together with it dirty and nasty. So we're going to get all of it cleaned up. We're going to get all this scraped up and clean, and I'll bring you guys back in when I start to pull the seals and put the seals back in and reassemble all this. All right, here we are back now. I've got the carrier out. What we want to do now is we want to clean all this up. So if you look real close, I know it's hard for you guys to see, but your seals are right here, just set on the outside of your carrier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bring you guys in just a little bit where you can see, if I can kind of maneuver you in to see this. But here's your seals right here. These seals is what stops that oil that's encased in here from exiting the outside of your bearings or of your axle. So we're gonna take a seal puller, we're gonna snatch those out, and we'll clean these axles tubes really good. We'll get all this clean on both sides. And once we get all that done, then it'll be time to pop the new seals back in. Now these seals can be a little bit of a challenge. They sell several different tools and things that you can use to drive these back in. I don't have those, so I'm gonna just come up with a way to push these new seals in. But I'm gonna get this cleaned up. I'm gonna get it ready for us to put the new seals in. And I tell you what, a lot of times I'll use just a wood chisel to scrape all this old RTV off, this old silicone off the outside, and then I'll come back with a razor blade and get it cleaned up real good and smooth. And I'll do the same thing for the cover. And before I put that cover back on, I'll lay it out on the floor on a flat surface, and I'll make sure that everything's real flat, and I don't need to maybe tap something down with my hammer just to make sure it seals properly. But once I get this thing ready and I get ready to push the seals back in, I'll bring you guys back in for another look. All right, here we are back. I've got both the seals out. I've already put this seal here in. So we'll get my light kind of turned here. We can see a little better. All right, so I've already got this seal pressed in. Now look, here's your new seals. One thing I would like for y'all to remember is around the outside of this seal right here, there's a little spring. And what that does is it just keeps the tension on this outside rubber. Put some grease around that just to make sure as you're tapping this seal in, that little spring doesn't pop out. So just keep that in mind. Now look, they sell some tools to press these in with. I don't have those. You know, I'm like every other guy. I just figure out a way to make it work without buying all the extra stuff. Most of the stuff I try to build it, or just find something. And what I've used, I've got some seal drivers or some race drivers. I just kind of matched it up with with the outside of this seal. And this seal just kind of bottoms out in there and it goes flush. And this is just enough room for it to press this all the way in here. And it's not very hard. They're not hard to press in. They're actually harder to get out. The original ones are harder to get out than these are to go in. You just kind of have to be careful. Make sure you're kind of pressing these in straight. I'll probably block about half of this as I'm doing it. But I'm just going to kind of tap that seal in. Like I said, you don't have to hammer on it really hard. You just kind of back and forth, just kind of keep it going in straight. And you'll know when you get it all the way in because your little race driver will bounce. So not hitting it real hard, just enough. I'll pull it out here and there and make sure I've got it going in kind of straight. May have to tap it in a couple other locations here and there. Make sure we're going in straight. It's kind of wanting to turn on me a little bit, which does happen from time to time. Like I said, those tools are probably much easier to do than this, but this does work. All right, there it went. Flip back around straight just the way I need it. All right, now I'm just kind of pressing it on in there. All right, now I'm gonna have to put my glasses on so I can inspect it and make sure everything looks good. That seems to be good and flush all the way around. See if I can press that just a little further. Probably just use the end of my hand. All right, so I kind of dropped you guys and you fell over and on the floor, and you've probably seen a couple of shots of the floor and me picking you up and getting you back started. But hey, the pedestals on those cameras aren't always the best. They're not real sturdy. The slightest little thing will knock them over. But anyway, I got the seal pressed in. I got everything cleaned up. Now it's time to put the carrier back in. What we want to do is I'm going to have to do a check on what the torque spec is for these cap bolts. Chevrolets, most of the time, most all the Chevrolet stuff and Ford stuff is generally like 65 foot-pounds. These, I'm not sure. It's a little bit smaller bolt. I would like to double check these before I just torque them down to 65. They may be 55. You know, who knows? They might even torque to more. So I'm going to double check these before I stick all this and put it all together. I'll go ahead and stick the carrier in. Go ahead and put the caps on it. And once I have all that in and just get the bolts kind of pulled down even, I'll check that torque spec and I'll let you guys know exactly what it is. And we'll move on from there. All right, guys. All right, we're back here. I've got the carrier put in. I've got it all set up here. I'll just kind of pull the bolts down enough so that everything's kind of just setting in there. I checked my torque spec. The torque spec on these are 70 foot-pounds. So we're going to snug these things down to 70. And that'll be it for the inside of this. All right, here we go. Let's turn this camera here. It wants to follow me, but I really don't want the following aspect right now. Let's pull these down to 70. All right, I'm going to swap up torque wrenches here. Not think I wasn't trusting that one very much. I set it on 70 and it didn't seem to want to work. So we're going to get one I know works really well. All right, here we go. Let's go to, that was a little, go around one more time. Now this will be 70. All right, so there we go. We got all those torqued down. One thing I didn't show on camera is I cleaned these axle tubes. And, you know, a lot of guys get stuff to go on their drill and all. They can go down and clean these out, and that's fine. I just still do things probably a little old school. I just found me a little rod, and I made me a little cotton swab out of it, or, you know, sort of a, you know, something we clean our ears with, I guess. But it works. It's you know, it doesn't take any longer. You're not, you know, if you got a lot of really big, heavy stuff in there, you probably have another issue with stuff getting in. This is mostly just for a little bit of debris, dust, stuff. You just kind of run it down in there, spray it a few times, clean it out, wash it out, and you should be good to go. All right, now I'm going to install my cover. I'm going to get it installed back on. Of course, we'll get fluid and all in it. We'll get the axles put back together. I'll shoot a little bit of video showing y'all putting the axle in. But I'm not going to make you sit through the whole process here and try to make it a really long video. But one thing I do want to ask you guys, just if you guys may know, this is a little kind of a trivia type thing I got going right here. Leave in the comments section on this differential. Let's see, let's turn it here if this thing will quit following me. All right, right here you got two holes on each side of this differential. You got here and here. I'll tell you what, you guys in the comment section, if you will, see if you can tell me what those are for. I want to see how many of you guys may know. Some of the guys that's built a lot of differentials will probably know what those are for. But if you will, leave in the comment section on an answer that you think what those two holes right there are actually for. And after we get 10 or so, I'll answer the question on what they're actually for if you guys don't get it. All right, so I got the cover back on the differential. I haven't filled it with fluid yet, but I'm going to go ahead and start putting the axles and putting the outside back together. So I got this axle slid in. Like I said before, one of my shims was left in here, so I had to fish that out. But it was, you know, I used the little tool that I used to clean the axles out, the housings out with to kind of push that out. Make sure I got it put back make sure it got put back on the axle. So I got all that slid in. I got my bearing put back on, tightening those bolts up now. This job really doesn't take that long. It seems like it takes longer than it really does. You can probably do this in, you know, a couple of hours on a Saturday. You know, I know if you guys ain't got a rack, it probably takes a little longer. That probably helps me out a lot having this rack, you know. But we'll get these run down, get these tight. Go ahead and put all the brake stuff back on. You know, I took the ABS lines off. I didn't want to stretch those out, so I pulled those out before I really got started trying to pull the axle. And it seems to be easier if you just pull them out from your bearing versus trying to reach up here and take them loose from there and pulling the wire and everything out. We've got one bolt here that's kind of questionable. The threads were a little banged up on it, but it seems to have, it seems to be holding good. So I run a little tap through the bearing itself, and I believe it'll be fine. So I'm gonna move on to the other side and repeat that process. I'm gonna pause you guys while I do that, but I'll see you back in a few. All right, so I've got both rotors, both calipers put back on the Jeep. I've already put the ABS sensors back in. I've got both of those tightened down. Fluids in the diff. So all that's left to do is put the wheels on this thing and drive. But we're not going to do that yet. It's going to conclude this video today, but I've still got to put a lift on this Jeep. I can't remember if this is a 3 or a 4-inch lift. But it's springs and shocks and all that, so I've got to do all that next. So at the moment, I'm not going to put the wheels on this, but this is going to conclude this video. Hey, if you guys like, if you do like any of the content here, please continue to like and subscribe. Leave me some comments. Leave me some comments on some stuff that y'all may want to see. But I do appreciate the ones that are viewing the videos. I appreciate the ones that's liking them and subscribing them. Send them to your friends. You know, we're gonna continue to do this, whether tons of people watch or not. But just continue to like and subscribe. And for this video, hey, we're done. We're out. Y'all have a good one.